All righty. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Fuck Calories. I'm Dr. Soleil, and that is Dr. Sarah. Um, so, Dr. Sarah, tell me, what are the updates today? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Well, up and down.
Mm.
I have kind of a milestone to celebrate, but also I'm not where I want to be. So we'll just kind of talk about the two flip sides of both of those. So the
Yes.
milestone that I'm celebrating is just a few days ago, on March 2nd. I passed my 1 year anniversary of being on tirzepatide. Specifically, I've been on, was on a compounding for a while. I was on Mounjaro for a while, and then now I have switched over to Zepbound. And so that is exciting.
Absolutely.
In the 1 year, I lost about 100 pounds. Um, I have been kind of wavering in the past couple months. As you know, we are both looking forward to a few milestones in the future, and I
Yes.
would like to lose some more before then. I'm a little bit in a rut, so that's kind of the other flip side of this milestone or this anniversary celebration is that um, although I have had excellent success by all measures, I've been in a little bit of a psychological, maybe physiological, I don't know, but a stall, if you will. And it's a little bit fucking with my psyche and um, leading to some poor choices. And I need to get back on track, especially if we're going to make our goals this year.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, let's dive into this because we are absolutely experiencing the same thing from different standpoints, right, in our lives. So, that is always, I think, interesting to talk to someone about. So, in 11 short weeks, which I just calculated today, we have signed up for a half marathon and we are super excited, except I myself am also in a rut because I have not been running. But I'm supposed to run a half marathon in 11 weeks. I'm sorry, what? So,
Yeah.
where, yeah, tell me a little bit about what you're feeling. Where are we doing? Because on one hand, I'm super excited that
Yeah.
you're at 1 year. And then the other thing, I'm terrified that we both have to run this race we signed up for in 11 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
not
mean,
running.
I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. I am less afraid of the half in 11 weeks than I am the full in 33 weeks. So, just to recap, we are also doing the Chicago Marathon. At least we're going to start it. I'm really worried. um, so, just for our audience members, Soleil and I both used to run half marathons. But this was like
Back in the day.
2009, 2010, 2011. So what was that, 13 years ago, a decade and a
Mm.
half. So it's been a minute. But I still think like my body will remember. Like I have done
Mhm.
like some of those half marathons that I did, I was at a high weight. And so I know that I can do them. I know that I can finish them. I know that it's just mental. But I don't know, I have such a block. I'm so in my head about the full because when I was running a lot and I was doing tons and tons of half marathons, I multiply tried to train for a full and like kept getting injured and having to pull out of races.
Mhm.
So I have never done a full.
Yep.
And so I am more worried about that. And I just feel like if I could get some more weight off, and this is like we should talk about this whole
Yep.
like if I should XYZ, but I just
Yes.
feel like if I could get some more weight off, then I'm decreasing my risk of like a stress fracture or like a stress
Mhm.
injury because
Mhm.
the ratio of the forces that my feet and legs and hips and knees and everything are going to be impacting over the training session. If I can decrease the weight, it'll decrease the load that they have to bear through this like upcoming grueling training season that we're going into. And
Yes.
so anyway, I have all these like thoughts in my mind and trying to like increase my protein to help support that training. And then like, struggling with my calorie intake and calorie
Mhm.
output and all of that is bullshit anyway. And anyway, feeling lots of feels right now.
Absolutely. So let's talk about should, right? We're
Mhm.
shoulding all over the place.
Yeah.
Because I
Should
feel like
not
a
do.
lot of us feel like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I should do this. I should be eating
Yeah.
less. I should be eating more. I should be losing weight for this. I should be running. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's where it's at. So where is that line between okay, use this as motivation, or the other side of that is more detrimental, right? Talk and like negative self-talk to ourselves. So how do you kind of walk that fine line?
Oh, it's so hard, and I fail it regularly. My
Mm.
therapist says I should never use the word should, and I just use it to like describe using it. So she wants me to completely remove it from my vocabulary, and clearly I failed. Um, by the way, we should point out that you have a new microphone, and that is the green
Oh, yes. Hello.
But anyway, so just in case people are distracted by it, and like, what the hell is on her chest? But anyway, yeah, I wouldn't say that I do a great job of it. Actually,
Mm,
I'll just be honest, I do a really shitty job of it. But I do think it's really important. I think that fear and like having a deadline can be really motivational, and I think it can be really helpful. But you're right, it is a very fine line of figuring out like, okay, is this like empowering me to like stick with my goals and stick with my like daily routines, or is this detrimental and disempowering me and discouraging me and making me remember all the times that I keep failing over and over and over. And I think it's really challenging, and I'll be honest, like I don't don't do a great job of this on a regular basis and walking that fine line.
mhm.
I don't know, what do you do in this scenario?
Yeah. So I find myself in the situation where I have found excuses to not be running. And the
Mhm.
longer that happens, the longer I give myself that excuse, which is
Yeah,
really hard to break out of.
yeah,
And at first, it's oh, it's okay. I have tons of time. Oh, it's okay. I'm really tired. Oh, it's okay. Blank. Right. And on one hand, I'm using the mantra of self care, of like listening to my body. And then I take it too far. Right.
yeah,
Because my body is well rested after that day. Like I slept 12 hours. I'm great.
yeah,
Um, but then it becomes am I am I lazy? And then am I things? And then I start that negative self-talk. And then I say, gosh, you should be doing better. You should be doing this. You should be an example, right? For the community and your patients and et cetera, et cetera. And then that also discourages me to even go back because I'm like, well, I'm already behind. How can I
yeah.
possibly catch up? And then the thought of, oh, I don't want to overtrain.
Right.
So I'll just do nothing because that makes sense. Like, and I'm here. So getting out of this rut is really difficult.
Yeah.
And I have yet to find the perfect scenario that gets me out. I've yet to find my perfect ladder that I can go and climb out of this hole in, right?
Yeah.
Because I found myself in this hole multiple times in my life. And some periods of times last longer than others. Sometimes it's just a week. And then I'm like, listen, I had a really bad test or I got a cold and I like truly was out for a week and
Yeah.
I just did nothing and I did not get off the couch. Other times it's oh, Soleil's been on the couch for 2 months now. And I have run through all of my excuses and I truly now am in the habit of laying on the couch.
Mhm.
So it's I'm hoping I can use the, oh my God, it is 11 weeks and 2 days away mentality that will light a fire underneath my butt, right? That's gonna like, okay, I'm serious this time. Like
Yeah.
I once I start, I cannot stop because I have a half marathon and then we have our first marathon. And like we're not quitting. We're
Yeah.
not going to not show up. We're showing up. The question is, how hard and difficult are we going to make it for ourselves to cross over that finish line? And I
Yeah.
think that's the only difference is you and I will show up on day one.
Yeah.
But like 7 hours after that, like I will literally be crawling on my hands and knees if that's what it takes to get to that finish line.
Yeah.
Um, but I also want to do it in one piece and I want to be healthy about it. And I don't want to have a stress injury, right? Like you're worried about. And that's a very real risk that we have when we get to the point where we maybe have skipped too many rest days, right, in
Yeah.
our plan. And now we
Yeah.
are playing quote catch up.
Yeah.
Does
And
anything
I
have
think
you
is
noticed
so
anything? Hmm.
I think that is so important what you said about like skipping too many rest days, because I think that is like so crucial and such an important overlooked point often when people take on training plans, is that they look at all the like workouts that they're going to do,
Hmm.
and they forget to say, like, you don't actually get better during the workout. You get better in the rest phase after the workout. And so
Right.
like if you compress all of your workouts into fewer days, meaning you are eliminating some of those rest days, that's how you end up with a stress fracture.
Right.
Or an injury of, of any sort. And so, and that's how you overtrain and don't improve. And if your body's just like over fatigued, you're not going to get faster, things like that. So I think that is it's a really, really important point that you brought up. So
So
we can
thanks.
kind of
Me
talk
too.
about like how we're fueling your body during this time. So so just from my own experience, just from having done, having run in the past and having lost weight in the past and different things, I know that my body feels better when I am on a low carb diet,
Mhm.
and specifically eliminating. So I don't necessarily eliminate when I say low carb. So different diets names mean different things to different people. And so let me just throw out there what I mean when I say that. So when I say low carb, my body feels better when I avoid sugar and flour.
Mhm.
So that means low carb to me in my iteration will include starchy veggies like potatoes or apples and stuff like that, but it will not include bread.
Mhm.
Um, just because I have noticed that when I eat bread or pasta or stuff that's created with flour, I feel like shit.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I get like really bad like slumps afterward, and I just feel more achy, and like the next day I'll like feel more like achy. Like I don't know if it's an inflammation problem or whatever, but I noticed that I don't feel as good, and I don't train as well. I don't train as hard. I don't feel good the next day. And so low carb for me is mostly low carb. It would be like what most people consider low carb, but I do include potatoes and apples, which a lot of people don't. So in other words, I don't mind having starchy veggies or fruit in my diet, which some people, if they're doing low carb, high fat or keto, will not. And I do that when I'm in a phase of doing lots of training.
Mhm.
But we should back up and say that there is no, like, you don't actually need carbs to work out. I just enjoy, like, I think it's really easy to pick up an apple and eat it instead of eating shit. And
Mhm.
so that's one of the reasons why I include it, because there's only so much restriction that any person can do. And so that's something that's easy for me to incorporate and to still feel good and still feel like I'm fueling my body.
Yep. I will say I agree with a lot of that. Like I feel best when I am eating lower carb. I will tell you that right now I am not. And so I'm also that plays in, right, to the role of me not feeling my best. So
Yeah.
sometimes maybe that's probably playing into the, oh, I don't feel like running. I don't feel like I could run today. My energy is low. I had too much sugar yesterday. I whatever that is, it's a
Yeah.
slippery slope for me.
Yeah.
And I feel best on low carb, but I also started eating carbs after basically during and after Kilimanjaro because everyone's like, oh, you need carbs, you need to keep carbs to keep going. And so I packed and took with me like gummy bears and like things like that. And then I
Mhm.
was reading these forums and people were like, oh, I use gummy bears to help me on my long runs. So I never stopped eating them because I
Yeah.
was like, oh, these are good for running.
Yeah.
And now I've just my carb intake, right, has gone back up. And because it's a slippery slope with me, my carbs, because they're turning into sugar, they hit that reward center in my brain. I want
Yeah.
more. And I
Yeah.
constantly am looking for more. And now I'm sitting on the couch, I'm eating carbs and I'm not working out.
Yeah.
And then I feel like crud, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, what happened? Where do I even start? How do I get out of this? Um,
Well, I
so
think this is a testament to like the dopamine feedback. Like we talk
mm,
about it, like I feel like we understand the pathway so well with like opioid addiction.
mhm,
So you and I know from medical experience that people who have struggled with opioid dependency, what happens is they have increased feedback on their pain receptors, so that at a baseline they're feeling more pain than the average person who's not using opioids. And
mhm,
so what that happens is that if you try to take them off of their opioids, they're miserable.
Mhm.
It's not because that they're not just getting their fix or whatever, like to call it like that. It's like they actually feel pain 24/7
Mhm.
because all of their pain receptors have been like obliterated, or not obliterated, but they've been over like upregulated. And
Mhm.
so even though it's not been well established, I think it's been well established, but even though it's not like widely understood and widely known, I think
Mhm.
the exact same thing happens with carbs. Like you, if you're using them and you are highly, highly active, you might be able to burn through the entirety of the, sugar content that is in within it in a single workout. But the more important part is that it's triggering a dopamine response in you,
Mhm.
so that such that then you like continue to crave it and continue to crave it, versus if you completely got it out of your entire diet, you feel better
Mhm.
because you whenever you have it in your diet, you're down regulating that feel goodness all the other times when you don't have it. And
Right.
so it's the exact same parallel. And I think that it's so important. I think that's one of the reasons why you and I have both gravitated to this, because we both have that
Mm.
tendency. And
Mhm.
there are some, fortunate people that maybe don't identify with this and don't struggle with this. And I am jealous. Um, but this is something that is, I have found just empirically from, because I have done every fucking diet under the sun.
Mhm.
So something that really affects my physiology.
Mhm.
And it's not to say that, high carb diets are bad. It's just that they don't work for me,
Right.
because I have this tendency and I will to go through these
Mhm.
things. And you have to get to a point where you completely eliminate them to like build up your dopamine receptors again to like feel good at baseline. And that
Yes.
is really, really hard thing to do when you're in the trenches and the grips of that carb addiction.
Yes.
And it's so hard. And I don't know. I don't know how to get out of it other than the GLP-1 was it helped to like break that tie, to like separate the dopamine from the intake that we've
Mhm.
talked about before.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's really, really freaking hard.
Yep. I think when I've gotten in and I've had to basically restart a low carb diet, unfortunately, I go in and I start throwing things away from my pantry,
Yeah.
because as yeah, a carb addict and a sugar addict, it is a slippery slope. So one cracker turns into a sleeve of crackers.
Yeah.
Like there is
Yeah.
no second cracker, right? And so crackers cannot come into the house.
Yeah.
And luckily, I don't necessarily have to ask anyone else about that because I just get rid of what I don't want in the house. And I
Right.
then have to make sure that grocery store Soleil is on the same page as
Yeah.
at home Soleil is at the same page as running Soleil because we
Yeah.
all want the same goal. But sometimes when I'm at the grocery store and you go hungry and like these saltine boxes looking at me, or whether it's,
And they're cheap,
whatever,
by the
right?
way. It's cheaper
Yes.
than like unprocessed foods.
Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, I could easily put that into my cart and take it home." And
Yeah.
so it takes a lot of, I don't want to say willpower because I don't feel like I have a lot of willpower, but it takes a lot of remembering my why.
Yeah.
And why am I doing this? And why? Oh yeah, because it makes me feel better and I
Yeah.
have more energy and I'm less depressed and less anxious when I get sugar out of my diet. And I feel like I can make it through the day without crashing because my blood sugar is not spiking and then
Mhm.
falling 2 hours
Right.
later. It's
Right.
And so remembering the why I think is more important than sometimes willpower. I mean, if you have willpower, perfect, but
Some of
I
us don't.
don't. Yeah, I was like,
And
I
right, and
don't.
it's not
But
like
it's
a
what that's
all or
like.
nothing. Like, it's like you go through periods where you may not have any right now, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So so yeah, so I still don't know. I still don't have um the fancy answer, right, to get myself out of this slump, but I know it's all tied together, right? I know my lack of exercise makes my depression and anxiety worse. I
Yeah.
know that because of my worsening depression and anxiety, I want to sit on the couch and I don't want to get up.
Yeah.
And I know then I try and self-soothe and
Mhm. Yep.
self-care by eating a box of saltine crackers. And I don't know why I'm stuck on saltines. I don't have those in my house because of this reason, but like let's
Yeah.
just say I did.
Yeah.
But it's it's a snowball effect. And so then
Totally.
everything comes into that. And then I get more upset with myself. And then I get more, so
Yeah, totally. Well, and the
yeah,
frustrating thing is that like I this is gonna sound really privileged, but like I don't even have like the like so I don't so say I have a scenario where I am feeling this way and like eating things that I don't want to be eating and falling into old habits. And so okay, so I get all the saltines out of my house, for example. Well, I'm such a like carb addict, but it doesn't matter. Like I'll just DoorDash something, like whatever's my heart desire. Like I live in fucking
yeah.
San Diego where there's like every restaurant that you could ever imagine is on
Hmm.
DoorDash. And so like it's literally just a click away. Like I can sit on my couch and wallow in my like depression and poor feelings and click a thing and it will show up at my doorstep. And I don't even have to
Yes.
interact with anyone. I don't have to talk to anyone because like my settings are set on like leave it at my door.
Yes.
So like yeah, so I mean sometimes like we have to have like 21st century solutions, or I don't even know if
Mhm.
that's 21st century, but like we have to be like really creative and innovative with like how we're going to stick with our boundaries that we've set for ourselves. And it's not because we're trying to restrict, it's because we're trying to empower ourselves to feel well and
Yes.
to perform well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how are you not going to DoorDash? What's your secret? What's my 21st century, right? Next,
Yeah.
what's my next thing?
So I don't know that this is really a solution, but the thing that I have done is I knew that my January and February schedule was obliterative.
Mhm.
And I knew that I just probably was not going to be running much. And so like I kept looking at my calendar and being like, okay, February 27th, when it comes, like I gotta get back on track. And I just kept looking at it and imagining it and like um like having that on my mind that when this day comes, that's the end. Like I got to start running again. And I didn't start by immediately like deleting all the apps and everything. I started by going outside.
Mhm.
And um I know that I feel better and that I do better when I'm active.
Mhm.
And by starting with something that is a positive thing for me, and this may be different for everybody, but
Mhm.
for me, starting with something that was a positive thing helped everything else fall. Like I can't just straight up one day and like be like, okay, I'm gonna eat well today when I
Mhm.
get out of bed because I will fail.
Yeah.
But if I start with something that I can do and that like I think the habits like kind of stack on each other and there are certain habits that make you want to be better, make you want to have better habits in other areas. And for me, that is definitely working out helps
Mhm.
me to want to eat better. I cannot just eat better on my own. I won't.
Mhm.
But if I'm working out, it helps me to want to eat better.
Yes.
But it's not work the other way around. And so for me, I just kept thinking, like when I was going through this 2 month period, I just kept thinking February 27th, February 27th, February 27th. I will survive until then. I will do whatever I need to do to like give myself self-care and like if it means an extra 45 minutes of sleep, if I order DoorDash, so I don't have to cook something, then like I'm permissive. And like I
Mhm.
wasn't really working out during that time. Like I had a handful of sporadic workouts, but nothing consistent.
Mhm.
And I just kept telling myself February 27th, February 27th, you just need to survive until then, and then you're gonna get back out there. And so on February 28th, I went for a run. It was a terrible run, and most of it was just walking. Um,
But you
but
did it.
exactly, and it kinda helped, flip the switch a little bit, and
Mhm.
so then when I came home, I didn't want DoorDash, I wanted something healthier, and so I wasn't
Yeah.
really ready to, like I wasn't in the mindset and the phase yet to, like, go buy a bunch of grocery shopping because I hate cooking, and I feel like that takes a lot, like, I have to it takes a lot for me to get there, but I
Mhm.
did go to Mendocino Farms and get a salad, which is not the healthiest, um but it is something for me that is within my plan. It's low carb and like, there's no croutons on this type of salad that I get. Like it fits with my plan. And so
Yeah.
it's something that I can pick up to go that I enjoy, that I like, that is within that's consistent with my values. And so then it's like, okay, well, I reinforce this value today. Now I have to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, and so basically I've been back on track for like what, a week? um, but
Dude,
so
that's awesome.
you know, I mean, sometimes that's all you can do. And so it's like 1 week now, I've got 11 to go and then
You're
33
but
to
you're
go.
a week ahead of me.
Yeah.
I love your idea. I love your idea of starting. with something you love. And so tomorrow I'm going to start with taking my dog on a walk, no matter
Yeah.
how cold it is, because I live in the tundra of the north,
Yes.
and it is still technically winter. And so I am going to take my dog on a walk, and that is going to help stimulate my good decisions from there on out.
Yeah.
So, all right, everyone. Well, let us know what you are going to do or not do, or, just part of this conversation. And Dr. Sarah and I will give you updates on how we are doing, but we'll see you later.